Welcome to the Coach Dave Love Podcast with NBA shooting coach Dave Love and your host, Matt Robertson, exploring the cutting edge of evidence-based shooting development in basketball today, from shooting form to skill acquisition to shot metrics. This is the Coach Dave Love Podcast.
Welcome to the Coach Dave Love Podcast. I am your host, Matt Robertson, and with me, as always, NBA shooting coach Dave Love. Dave, what's going on?
I try and think of an answer for that generic question.
You know it's coming.
Unless the days that, like some days I just blatantly ignore it and move on to something else, which I guess today is one of those days. Not much is going on, Matthew. How are you today?
Terrific, delightful, big work day, long work day, fired up though. I do have one little note that I want to address before we get started though.
Oh, good. I've got something too, but I'm going to forget mine. So you go ahead.
No, you go first. I'm going to remember mine.
Oh, I might have already forgot. Oh, I try and actively, like with my kids, I try and avoid like these generic questions like, how was your day? Which of course I do ask. But then I'll try and get more specific, like what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part? What's something that made you laugh today? And my kids have always been really good about like actually giving a thoughtful answer. So what's been the best part of your day today, man?
Oh, good question. I get to have a meeting with somebody that I really love. So that was great. My last meeting of the day was on a patio. We're having coffee, and this guy has a couple of work crews in very specific colored trucks. Through the conversation, he mentioned he has 2 trucks, but his workplace was very close. So literally every 8 minutes, this like obnoxious green truck drove by and he'd wave. And if he hadn't said he had 2 trucks, I would have been like, man, you've got a fleet of like 20 trucks, because it feels like I saw all of them today. So that was a pretty funny moment in my day. How about you? What was your favorite part of your day today?
You telling that story might be near the top of the list, because now I have to segue into another family joke where we like to name the colors of obnoxiously colored cars as though you're the person going into the dealership asking for that color. And so like an example would be, do you have anything in Sunburnt Shrek?
Yeah.
Like, or do you have anything in Ernie? Like Ernie and Bert? And only myself and my daughters think that's funny, no. I think. But yeah,
I'm trying to buy an iridescent rouge vehicle at the moment. And I was thinking of ostentatious orange, but that's a little too on the nose, yeah. I think. What I was going to say is, we've never talked about this, but one of my favorite little gags is that on game day, or pod day, when we record, you send me the link for a recording and you name the email another variation of link, of a variety of these things. And I always look forward to what is going to show up in my subject line today. I think it's great.
That's a new thing. That's only been in the last like couple of weeks, but yeah, I'm kind of enjoying it. And I think I'm running out. I have a former player that's actually helping with my little data project. Her name is Lindsay Agnew. And I would joke with Lindsay as I was getting to know her as a player that I could never remember if she was Lindsay with an S-E-Y or S-A-Y. And so we started this bit of, when texting each other, misspelling the other person's name in as many varieties. So like Lindsay had a double L. She had like a silent H. She had like the A with the, I don't even think you actually do it, but like an A with the 2 dots over top, like Norwegian kind of. And yeah, how did we get this far down this tangent? But yeah.
You know, so what I always say.
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for asking.
No problem. Never mind. I'm not going to go there. You know, the magic lives in the tangent. The magic lives in the tangents for me. Thanks for indulging me and for being here today. So, Coach Dave, the episode today, very excited about this because there's sort of an ongoing debate on the internet. And one of the funny things about it is sometimes I think the people on both sides are saying the same thing, which is a delightful thing. So today, we're here to set the record straight in terms of the facts, and we may not make a decision about which is which, but we are going to clarify for the people. And that's a really long-winded way of introducing our shtick for the episode, which is 1 versus 2 motion shooting. Coach Dave, let's just talk about the internet discourse about this right now, just really briefly. What are you seeing out there? People calling what you think 1 motion shooting is 2 motion shooting and vice versa. Like, talk for a minute about that for me.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things that we need to make sure that we understand. Number 1 is there seem to be 2 different definitions of what 1 motion, 2 motion means. So we need to really make sure which one of those we're talking about.
Sure.
And it's not my place to decide for the shooting culture what the name is. We just have to make sure in our discussions as coaches with players that when we're talking about 1 or 2 motion, the player is receiving the message we intend to send. So what I see as some of the confusion would be some people think 1 motion is a relatively straight path from triple threat position through release, that there's just 1 curvature or closer to 1 curvature. Other people, the flip side of that argument will be a 2 motion shot is a very pronounced S curve, a big change of direction at the set point. The other definition that I see people giving is that 1 motion means the ball never stops moving, and 2 motion is a pause at the set point and then release. And those 2 different definitions for 1 and 2 motion shots can and often are related, but they can also be independent of each other.
So the reason I bring it up is because I've seen in a place on the artist formerly known as Twitter where someone is arguing that a 1 motion shot is better and the other person is arguing that a 2 motion shot is better, and they're talking about the same thing, which is such a fun thing. I think Schadenfreude is the right name for it, when it's just like finding joy in other people's misfortune or some such thing like that. But it makes me really happy. Like, y'all should be trolling on the internet. I think it's great. So all that to say, I'm glad we're talking about this today. Dave, you mentioned the word pronounced S-curve. And before we move on, can you repeat what you said in terms of what some people think that is, and then describe the S-curve for me, just for the people?
Yeah, great. Thank you for getting me to clarify this. Just like I've talked about this so many times, I just assume everybody knows what I'm talking about. And
you see my title here. Sorry, my title here, right? Exercising.
Oh, you were pointing at the wrong corner, but neither here nor there. I'm not going down that tangent. We're not going down that tangent, Matt. Or at least on my screen, you were. So maybe you're. No, I'm gonna. Yeah,
I broke your brain. Keep going.
Well, no, there was gonna be maybe we're arguing about the same thing. Anyhow. Okay, so the S curve. Imagine as a coach standing at the free throw line extended on the right hand side of a right-handed shooter. You're seeing the profile view of their body as they're shooting. And then you're tracking the path of the ball as the ball starts at triple threat position, will usually move up and away from their body, and then come back towards their forehead, and then change direction again to move up and forward away from their forehead as they're releasing the ball. And that, for a right-handed shooter standing on the right side, makes an S curve. For a left-handed shooter standing on the left side, it would be a mirror image of an S curve. That's what I'm talking about. And so with one definition of that one motion shot would be to flatten out that S and get it as close to just lifting straight up to around up close to the body, and then out forward from the forehead at that set point. That would be kind of the one definition of a one motion versus a two motion shot.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for kind of setting that straight. That's one thing you mentioned. And again, I've read some of your writing. I know what that is from that experience, but I know the people, I did not know what an S-curve was until you started talking about it with me offline.
Can I be weird for a second?
Please. I encourage
One
it.
of my favorite words to slip into workouts, because I think we share this. We both love the Formula One documentary on Netflix.
Correct.
I'll refer to it with the Formula One term of a chicane. I like working chicane into a, and nobody in this world knows what that means, but it's a great word.
I'll tell you, the show Top Gear, which is a BBC British car show that ran for like 25 years and then still runs, but with a different cast. But it was 3 guys. They had their own track, and there was a big chicane. So that's when I first learned what it was. And they said it for 10 episodes straight, and I was like, I don't know what that is. And then I think Wikipedia like 10 years ago told me what it was. A word that I love to slip in that I haven't found yet, but we're going to find it today. And you know what? I'm not going to say it. I'm going to slip it in as we go. Okay. So Dave, there are 2 different definitions, pause or no pause, or change the direction versus smooth.
Right.
So tell me, for you, give me the Dave Love, not Dave Love definitive, but for you, when you're talking about one motion shooting, what are you talking about?
Could be either. And so I don't, I'll just make it clear which I'm talking about to the particular player that I'm talking to. And I don't know that I use this language all that often, because especially in the last couple of years, we start to see that the conventional wisdom being taught on, we want a smoother ball path, we want less change of direction, which again, I've said this many times and I'll continue to say, I used to teach myself, might actually be wrong. And or have as many disadvantages as it does have advantages, and so that's again the advantages of shot metrics is we're actually quantifying and then allowing us to be able to study and compare. But I digress. I would probably mean a smoother path most often when I would talk about one motion versus two motion, but I interchange between the two.
It's funny because there were times in my career where I started to struggle. My mechanics were kind of getting out of whack as I got tired, and I tried to think of it as more of a smooth ball path to try to keep me close to the body, straight up and down. Maybe it didn't actually really help all that much, but just resetting me to a more like kind of in tight as my elbows, flying out or whatever. But that's really interesting. A really great little dusting of you of the shot metrics parlance just right there. Really nice, really, really good. So just a tease for your fun little data project of what's coming. So Dave, that means for you, talk about two motion shooting and what it means for you.
When I think of like two motion, I think of somebody like Klay Thompson, and or I think about somebody shooting a jump shot. That the lift to the set point, and then either the ball probably slows down. It never stops, but it slows down, and then an acceleration out of the set point again. With a jump shot, that hesitation, that slowing down is really just waiting for the body to get to its highest point before, or get towards its highest point so that we can synchronize that timing. But that's kind of what I picture it. And I want to just say in this moment, like, something I forgot to put in our show notes, but I think is really important. Like, I hardly ever use the word hitch. I see so many people referring to the pause at the set point as having a hitch in your shot. And to me, a hitch is a very, very specific thing. And Klay Thompson lifting the ball to a set point is not a hitch.
No.
So I don't know, like, if maybe this is a mini pod later on where we actually dive into what I actually think a hitch is. Maybe it doesn't really matter, but I just want to share. I don't think pausing at the set point is a hitch.
So this is actually, again, a great tangent to a subject that might be another mini pod, or we could talk about it here. Dave, do you want to talk about the dip as part of a 2-motion shot or a 1-motion shot, or it doesn't really fit here? We can kind of protract this to a later conversation.
Yeah, since we brought it up, I guess we'll spend 30 seconds on it if I can do that.
I love it.
But the simple phrase that I always kind of give for should we dip the basketball would be as much as needed for the distance of the shot that's shooting and as little as possible. That there is no, like, you should always do this, you should never do that. There's advantages and disadvantages to both dipping and not dipping the basketball. It depends on the shot, the situation, and the player shooting it. And we should probably have multiple weapons as opposed to just black or white.
So just for the people, the dip that we're referring to is at triple threat. Before you go to shoot, you dip the ball down, which a lot of younger players need for the power element, but also a lot of older players have that bad habit or that habit in their repertoire a little more maybe than they should. As little as needed is a nice way to kind of sum that up in a bow. Coach Dave, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about the perceived advantages of both 1 and 2 motion shooting.
Hey there, basketball fans. I'm NBA shooting coach Dave Love, and I've got exciting news just for you. Introducing my exclusive, free basketball shooting newsletter. It's packed with insights and techniques straight from the hardwood. Have you ever wondered how NBA players improve their shots? Or how you could get to the next level, whether you're a college player, a coach, or a budding youth player? My newsletter brings all this and more directly to your inbox. Each edition is a deep dive into the world of basketball shooting. I'll share some of the tips and ideas that I use with my NBA clients, tailored for every level of the game. But wait, there's more. Subscribers receive exclusive monthly discounts on my online products. From training videos to personalized coaching sessions, you'll get it all for a fraction of the price. And the best part of all, it's absolutely free to join. So what are you waiting for? Elevate your game and join a community of passionate players and coaches from around the globe. Signing up is easy. Just visit CoachDaveLove.com.
And welcome back. Coach Dave, firing up 24 up on the shot clock. This is an ATO. We're drawing up a play. Let's get a good shot. Please give us a rundown of what we talked about in the last segment.
So in the last segment, what I really want you to get out of it is that there could be 2 different definitions of 1 motion and 2 motion shots, and that we need to make sure as coaches that we understand in each conversation which one of those are we talking about. Are we talking about the ball not stopping and continuing moving in 1 motion, or the pause of the ball at the set point and 2 distinct pieces? Or are we talking about the ball moving fluidly from point A to point B in a relatively straight line, or a pronounced S-curve? Did I fit that into 24 seconds?
The buzzer was going off as the shot went up, but that was great. I guess the underlying sort of theme of that is that clarity is really important when using this terminology with your players. That's sort of the first, the overriding theme of that first section, right?
Yeah, and I think you get hamstrung when you only have one way of saying it, because that opens up the door for misinterpretation if somebody else says that thing differently. And the more that you can phrase it in different ways, what you're talking about, the more you're kind of clarifying for the person what you mean and explaining what you mean in different words.
Excellent. Coach Dave, let's talk about the perceived advantages of one motion shooting.
Yeah. So in the last 10 years, 15 years, we've got a big push towards one motion shooting is the best way to go. And I think the single greatest factor that we've started to teach in that direction is a fellow by the name of Steph Curry. You may have heard of him. He's a pretty good shooter. So this guy who's the greatest shooter that's ever lived, and I don't think that's up for debate, shoots probably the closest thing to a one motion shot that most professional athletes shoot. And so we've started to say, well, he's the best. He does it this way. There are some seemingly logical things about that would help. And so that should be the way that it's being done. And I think that's too broad and misses the point. But what people will kind of point towards is the longer motion of a one motion shot would be more powerful. It's like a big backswing in golf, or a big looping swing in baseball, that it can generate more power. And so do I want to go into who this would be beneficial for now, or should I circle back to that? I think I'm going to circle back to that.
Let's cover that at the end.
So then you'll get people that will say, okay, it's also a more efficient motion, and I'm assuming that they mean because the ball isn't changing direction or isn't stopping, the power is or the momentum is efficiently flowing, or that because the next thing that they'll point to as an advantage of a one motion shot is what they think is a quicker release. That because the ball's not slowing down or changing direction significantly, that the time that it takes to shoot that shot is faster, which in some cases is probably true, and in other cases might not be. So those would be what are some of the not all. I'm sure there's others that other people will think of, but the most common perceived advantages of a one motion shot.
So we say perceived advantages. Can you think of any actual advantages outside of that? Like, in your opinion, that kind of narrowing it down to what your opinion is of one motion shooting, or do you want to wait to the end to kind of pass a judgment?
I think I do believe it's more powerful. Why I phrase it with perceived advantage is to kind of highlight that there is a flip side to that. The disadvantage of more power is you now have more power to control. And so this is probably highlighting my frustration in the little data project, and that I've spoken to a lot of baseball people. And baseball is, from both a hitting and a pitching perspective, focused, for lack of a better word, on generating more power. How can I throw the ball harder? How can I hit the ball harder? And power can be important in shooting, but it's not more important than accuracy. And so we don't necessarily need more power in shooting. We need the correct amount of power. And having a longer motion, a longer one motion, generates more power, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily need it. Steph, Luka, these guys shoot relatively effortlessly from half court. But what if they're only, quote unquote, shooting from 25 feet? Now they need half that amount of power. what do you do? Like, if you would have to slow down the ball, well, do we want that? Like, there's these trade-offs of, and when we view it from one lens of the one motion is more efficient, it's more powerful. Okay, good. Do we want that? And I don't believe that we always do. We get too fixated on generating more power. So that would be a big disadvantage of a one motion shot.
I was going to say, but Dave, how am I going to shoot the logo 3 without more power?
Right. Yeah. Mini pod. Let Dave rant about. Yeah.
Maybe the mini pod is just get off Dave's lawn or get in Dave's back, work on Dave's backyard.
I feel like now's the logical time to say, like, okay, so who is it beneficial? Who should be shooting a one motion shot? Does this make sense to fit in now?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Kids. Like, if what's holding you back is your body doesn't have enough power, then keep the ball moving fluidly so it generates more power. But just be aware, as you get physically stronger, as you get older, that more power can cause as many detriments or be as detrimental as it was advantaged in the early stages. So it's not black or white. It's a double-edged sword. The advantage of more power can also be a disadvantage for a powerful person, which mature people and high-level basketball players tend to be.
I'm excited for you to eventually talk about shot metrics and that sort of the curve that relates to arc versus velocity in shooting, because I think that there's some real incredible stuff to be learned from that when we get to that period.
Yeah, and I'm getting curious of when I might, like, I'm sharing that now with the teams that pay me for that information, and it's right now a competitive advantage. Like, somebody asked me semi-privately on social media, like, how come you're not talking about this? And the answer, well, it's a competitive advantage, and I'm in a very competitive industry, and so I have this information. I'm going to share it with the people that I work for, and to give them a competitive advantage. I'm not going to share it with my competition just because I'm a nice guy, which I think I am.
I think you're a nice guy.
We're competitors here, and I want to win. So
there is a line in the Full Swing documentary on Netflix, which is the golf version of the F1 documentary, where Brooks Koepka's wife kind of became a bit of a she made a number of appearances, and one of the lines she said that made us laugh, B and I laugh, was, Brooks wants to win. And that was sort of the clip. And so for like 3 weeks after, if there was a competitive moment, they came up to the house and I was like, B, Brooks wants to win. And it became a great kind of running gag. So anyway, Dave wants to win. 20-second timeout, run it.
My wife would say, and she would like, is be sort of like, or here, I'll just share rather than kind of trying to link it back. We went through a poker phase, my wife and I and some of our friends, and my wife would get very annoyed at me when I would raise pots. She's like, why can't everybody play? I'm like, because I'm trying to win the hand. And some of the, like, if I feel like I have something good, or I'm pretending like I feel like I have something good, I'm going to force that's why the expression is forcing your hand. And she wanted it to be very democratic and, or communist. I don't know. and just like, no, let everybody play the hand. Like, no, I want to win. That's the point of poker. And that's, yeah. Anyways.
I can confirm.
I feel like we need to. Sorry.
I can confirm that you are not pretending to have a good hand in this case, just to the world. Coach Dave, let's take one more break. No, not one more. We're going to take a break, and we're going to talk about two-motion shooting when we come back.
Hey basketball fans, Coach Dave Love here with an exclusive offer just for you, my personalized video shot analysis. Imagine having an NBA shooting coach analyze your shooting form, just like I do for the pros. That's exactly what you'll get with my video shot analysis. Here's how it works. You send me a video of your shot and I'll break it down frame by frame. I'll pinpoint your strengths and identify the areas of improvement and give you tailored advice to take your shot to the next level. You'll receive a comprehensive analysis designed just for you. Whether you're a beginner or an aspiring pro, my feedback will help you shoot with confidence and precision. It isn't just feedback, it's a game changer. With my video shot analysis, you're not just practicing, you're evolving, and every single shot counts. Ready to transform your game? Visit CoachDaveLove.com/store to learn more and get started. That's CoachDaveLove.com/store and look for video shot analysis.
All right, Coach Dave, welcome back. We're going to fire 24 up on the thought clock. Give us a look at what we just talked about in this ATO segment.
We kind of defined what one motion shooting is and its perceived advantages. I think the most common perceived advantage of a one motion shot is the idea that it's more powerful, and it probably is. But then the flip side of that is we have to be aware that we don't always want more power in shooting, that our goal isn't to be able to miss from further out. Our goal is to be able to shoot with the correct amount of power. And sometimes that will be less, and a one motion shot will make shooting with less power more challenging to do.
Crushed it. Great job. We got a good look from the corner. That's awesome. I love that you said to miss from further out, because that's how we pick first ball in my run. It's a half court shot, and all you have to do is hit the backboard. And the funniest thing is that when people try to hit the shot and they air ball, which means they don't get the ball, and the smart people literally just chuck the ball at the backboard and we go first ball. It's such a great, anyway, it's a
stupid rule that is, it just eliminates the stupid people.
It's incredible. Such a good little nuance. Okay, Coach Dave. So it's listed in the show notes as forgotten advantages of the two motion shot. I want you to talk about this, and then we're going to go on to a few of your opinions on this matter. So give us the forgotten advantages of the two motion shot, and give us why you worded it that way.
Oh yeah, I thank you for noticing. That's why I like having you around, because you pick up on these little things that I think are important, but I wonder, is this just the way my brain works? Because we've gone so far to Steph Curry's the best shooter that's ever lived. I agree. He shoots a one motion shot. I would agree. Therefore, one motion shot is the best way to do it. I might not always agree with that. There are advantages to a two motion shot, and there are certain times and people that I would use this or not dissuade them away from a two motion shot. And I think the pendulum has swung so far that we think everybody should shoot like Steph. Well, who's the second best shooter that's ever lived?
Ray Allen?
Okay, two motion.
Klay Thompson?
Klay Thompson. Two motion. Like, you go down, like the next 9 guys on that top 10 list might be two motion shots. So is it really a bad thing? I think the important thing is to understand the advantages and the disadvantages of each, and then know through your experience which is the best ingredient for the particular player you're working with.
Excellent. That makes sense to me. I understand why you fired that in the notes and why you worded it that way. So let's talk about those advantages or forgotten advantages. I love that perceived versus forgotten. That it shades me in the direction of what you think without telling me what you think. I really love that.
I could argue it's a more compact shooting motion. And then some people are going to say, well, hold on a second. Like, if you're lifting from A to B, let's say A is triple threat, B is your set point, pausing at B and then releasing at C, is that more compact than just flowing from A to C? Like, that seems like it would take less time. And if we're just talking from A to B and B to C, for sure, not stopping the ball would be arguably more efficient. But in games, there are times when that like little hesitation, like a head fake, that disruption of your natural rhythm to fool a defender from B to C is your actual shooting motion.
Mm-hmm.
Stopping there so that you're in control, or slowing down so that you're more in control of that beginning of the shooting motion, and accelerating through there could be more compact than flowing from A through to C. And I don't know if I explained that very well, and I'm kind of debating whether I should take a second lap of that. But
take a lap, Coach.
Okay. The shooting motion doesn't actually begin until the ball gets to the set point. The lifting motion of triple threat to your set point generates power, but your hand is not actually in position to shoot the basketball. If you move fluidly through that position, you have more energy to have to control. But by stopping there, you've given yourself a more compact shooting motion to have to control. It's basically like if I told you to hit a baseball as hard as you possibly can, you would probably generate a big looping swing. But then if I flipped around and I said to you, if you miss hitting the ball on this, I'm going to kick you in the nuts. Then you're probably just going to, like a short, compact motion. Thanks for laughing. I wouldn't actually do that. I'm a nice guy. You would shorten the motion and make it more compact to increase the likelihood you're going to make contact with the ball.
That is a perfect illustration. I have a really quick tangent. One of the best shooters that I know in his younger years was very selective about the shots that he took. So not only was he a very good shooter, he was only taking the most wide open shots. So he shot an exceptional percentage. Our summer coach in high school, we went to separate high schools, but in the summer we came together, ran a set for him that was basically like a triple screen through sprint, swing, wide open, passes up the jumper. Coach calls a timeout, brings the gang in, and says, Kevin, I swear to you, if you ever pass up a shot on a play I drew up for you or you're open again, I will walk onto the court and I will punch you in the groin. I don't care if your parents are here. I don't care if your girlfriend's here. I don't care if your grandparents are here. I will walk right onto the court and punch you right in the groin. And he stopped, and Kev said, yes, and then never passed up an open three again. Impactful moment. Coach Jamie Small, RIP, super special coach back in the day. But thank you for that.
I told a player a week and a half ago, God, what did they do? I can't even remember what they did, but I said, sort of in a joke, obviously joking way, if you ever do that again, I'm going to walk up to you and just kick you in the shins. And it got the laugh. Like I'm trying to, like, in a humorous way, like say, like, let's try not to do that. But I'm trying to say it in a way that's going to get them to, like, feel like I'm on their side in a way that feels like I'm very much not on their side. Lots of layers that leave it open for misinterpretation, which I find funny.
The peen punch is a very specific one that maybe isn't suitable for all audiences, especially if you don't know the person that well. So it's really, really good. Okay, love the short swing, compact motion comparison. That lays it out perfectly for me. I understand exactly what you're saying. And as we've discussed before, which I don't know if I would have said this before we started doing the podcast, but really, after you hit the set point, that's almost I wouldn't call it a reset, but a balance check for where you are in your shot, right? So really, once you hit that balance check or that reset point, that's all that matters is going upwards and straight up and towards the hoop from there.
You need to be in control of the ball at the beginning of the shooting motion. And that little pause, that little hesitation gives you, I use exactly that phrasing. It's a reset. It gives you a chance to make sure you're in control. And as part of the reason why I used to spend so much time on isolation drill, and I still spend a good amount, but not nearly the volume that I used to. So can I share another forgotten advantage of the two motion shot? So we talked about leaving like B to C, the set point to release being the actual shooting motion. A to B is the lifting motion. By having that reset point, having that little hesitation, that pause, or that change of direction, that allows you the opportunity to have more variability in the A to B lifting motion. So what I mean by that is if you're going to be one motion Steph Curry and the ball never stops moving, the ball theoretically never changes direction, then you have one possibility. And if somebody puts their hand on your hip and now you can't start with the ball in a position to lift straight up, then they've basically forced you to shoot a two motion shot. And you can't do that. You're a one motion guy. And by having sort of a two motion, you then give yourself some flexibility to be able to start with the ball on the left side of the body because you've got somebody on your right hip. And yes, it's not ideal, but you're moving the ball laterally to your set point, have your reset point, and then lifting straight up. So the shooting motion is a straight line like we would probably all want it, but the lifting motion is a workaround for the problem that the defender created, and you've given yourself a natural solution to that problem.
Especially,
does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, it makes sense to me. I have a follow-up question, but especially in the NBA where they've gotten rid of, I think it was 2 years ago in the off season, that when the player is reaching to the hip and the offensive player comes up through the hand, they've gotten rid of that foul. You now have no option if you're a one motion shooter and there's a hand there. There just is no option. Where before, I mean, Kobe is sort of the one who popularized it, and James Harden bastardized is maybe not strong enough of a word, but he was the one who really took advantage of that rule where if your hand's in there and I'm lifting up through and all of a sudden, and the ball goes flying.
Yeah.
But especially now where that rule has kind of been taken out of play, you really have no option and have to find another way to get there.
Yeah, and so really, I guess the message I want people to receive is defenders are forcing two motion shots whether we like it or not, like in a variety of different ways, and so to force everybody to try and shoot a one motion shot is going to limit just as much as trying to what would be the flip side of that? Trying to dissuade or enabling everybody to shoot a two motion. Yeah, that. So again, double-edged sword, as we kind of keep talking about. It's in the gray area. It's a case-by-case basis.
Especially if you watch the NBA, some of the best shooters have a variety of lifting motions. You know, Kevin Durant has a super unique path from A to B, right? It's really interesting to watch guys and how they load and how they get to that set point. But you're right. It's very few of the great shooters have one motion shots when you actually, you know, just we have that one kind of peak of the pyramid or top right of, on your screen, top right of the graph that happens to have one, which makes us look at him in that kind of way.
Yeah, it's it's really interesting, and this is where like the shot metrics idea has really forced me to explore. Like, you start with a hypothesis. This is what I would teach. How do I quantify that? And then how now that I can quantify, can compare, do good shooters actually do that? And you look at the ball path of, like, if you look at the ball path of almost every shooter, from the perspective of standing behind them, they almost all have the ball over on their left side of center. Now, I would not teach that in a vacuum, but Kyrie Irving has one of the most significant balls on the left hip. It's a change of direction at his set point on his free throws. He's one of the best free throw shooters that's ever lived. So is this something that's actually working against you, or is there a better question that we can ask? And we're finding there's better questions.
Better questions. Dave, what is one more forgotten advantage of two motion shots?
Well, I'm looking at the list, and I kind of lumped the two. So
Yeah.
you're leading me towards it can be more efficient, which I kind of covered in the compact first part of the answer. So I think we've kind of already gone to this. So who would I go to for? Who would I encourage to have a two motion shot? Somebody who naturally has a two motion shot and is strong enough to be able to shoot it from distance. If somebody is 6'7" and 220 pounds of muscle, and they naturally bring the ball to the set point, and there's a little bit of change of direction and a little bit of a pause, if that's not what's causing them to miss shots, then I'm going to let them have that. So this is something like trying to change somebody from two motion to one motion or one motion to two motion isn't something I ever do. Whatever they are, I let them be as much as I can, as long as it's not the primary thing holding that person back.
I don't want to dive into this because I do think it is a fun mini pod idea, but for somebody with a perceived hitch in their shot, which two motion shooting is not, as you've discussed, is that somebody whose release you would try to create more fluidity with, which I know is a word that doesn't mean anything, but to sort of lean closer to a one motion shot to get through that problem spot that they have?
To me, so I'll define what I think a hitch is. And I have a very specific definition that comes down to Charles Barkley's golf swing. And so if you remember, like somebody our age, your age or older, of which I fit into, that's a hitch. Like there was a golf show on the Golf Channel when Hank Haney was, or just after Hank Haney's Tiger Woods swing coach. And there, it was called the Haney Project. And the first season was Hank Haney, professional golf coach, teaching Charles Barkley how to fix this disastrous swing that everybody was making fun of. And he said, Hank says at one point, you have a hitch in your swing. Your body involuntarily stops because it can feel it's out of position to get to where it needs to be. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And so for me now, that is the only definition of a hitch in your shot. When your body involuntarily stops because it realizes I can't create what I want to create with the ball moving in the direction that's currently moving. So I've got to stop it and figure out how to self-organize. And it usually looks disgusting. But pausing at the set point is not a hitch. And I think it's really important to understand that, just like it's really important to understand a tangent here, that the seams aligned with the axis of rotation of the ball is not pure rotation. That is no. I can't explain yet. That will be something for when the book comes out, when the data gets shared, more information. But just know the seams are an optical illusion.
I just meant, can you explain the concept of seams aligning with axis of rotation? Because I understand what that means. I don't know if everybody will understand on the whole.
When the ball's spinning in the air, it's spinning around an imaginary rod that is running through the ball. And that rod appears to be fixed. It's just rotating. That is the axis of rotation of the ball. If the seams are aligned, if the seams on the basketball are aligned with that rod, it will look like it's spinning, quote unquote, purely. But that doesn't mean that it actually is spinning purely. It just means the seams are aligned with the axis. And so I've had a whole bunch of coaches who, especially since we started doing the shot metric stuff, who said, oh, he has great backspin. Look at the backspin. I go, nope, there's a positive VY tilt to that. And it's just the seams are aligned based on how he grips the ball normally. But it's actually spinning significantly off axis, just with a nice alignment of seams, which does not matter at all. Conversely, you can have really messy looking backspin that is pure because the seams aren't aligned, but the backspin is pure. So,
wait, you're writing a book?
Yep.
You did say that.
I hope to not sell any copies. I hope to give away 120 copies and that nobody knows about it beyond that.
That seems like a bad business model, but I understand what you're saying.
It's the business model I want.
That's right. Coach Dave, let's take one last break and then we'll wrap up.
Hey there, basketball fans. Coach Dave Love here with an exciting opportunity to revolutionize your shooting game. Introducing my exclusive shot development systems, Pure Release, Consistency and Balance, and Fluidity and Arc. Each system is designed to target key aspects of your shooting technique, transforming you into a more effective player on the court. Pure Release focuses on perfecting your shot release. Consistency and Balance enhances your stability and accuracy, and Fluidity and Arc works on your ball path and trajectory of your shot. Find out the drills and progressions that I use with my NBA players to improve these important habits. Can't decide which one to choose? No worries, grab the bundle and get all three systems at a fantastic value. It's a complete package to elevate every part of your shooting game. And there's a special deal for all my podcast listeners. Use the promo code PODCAST20 at checkout to save 20% on any of the shot development systems. Don't miss this chance to train like the pros. Visit CoachDaveLove.com/store and take your first step towards shooting success. That's CoachDaveLove.com/store.
Okay, Coach Dave. Don't know how you're going to do this because we talked for 30 minutes in that section.
Ooh.
I'm putting up 24 on the thought clock, and you have only 24 seconds to spit out this ATO. What did we talk about in the giant last segment?
Well, we have to remember, I don't have to summarize the entire thing. I just have to make sure I summarize the one important thought that I want you to get out of the last segment. And in this particular segment, I want you to get out of it. Oh, dang it. I want you to understand that a two-motion shot can have advantages over a one-motion shot for particular players. They're probably strong enough to do it.
You were driving to the hoop, you got stripped, but the ball got bumped to the player in the corner who was open because of a mishap on the wing. So
it wasn't pretty,
but
an
open shot.
Yeah.
That's the one you say, just like we drew it up.
Right.
So again, obviously you've made it clear that for you, a two-motion shot is probably preferable for the right section of players who are strong enough to get the ball to the hoop using that motion. For coaches out there, do you have any last thoughts to kind of sum up these ideas into like a nice bite-sized nugget that may or may not be a clip that you could post on social media?
Yeah, I guess I guess we should introduce maybe, and I didn't think of this, but when you were saying like what you're saying just now about I might prefer a two motion, I kind of went in my head, well, not exactly. And I guess what I prefer is the appropriate hybrid for each player. I do want the power of a one motion shot if that's needed. I do want the efficiency and compactiveness of of a 2-motion shot for the people who need that. And I think the art of coaching shooting is knowing the balance of those two things for the person that you need. Which one do they need more of? Which one do they need less of? And in what way do they mess that up? And so I, like we keep saying, and I think I've said 4 times now in this episode, gray area. And so, yeah, I don't even remember what you asked, but I want to clarify that.
It truly is an art, and you are Picasso. I really appreciate you, Coach Dave. Thank you for that little gesture for those in the listeners. That's great. I don't really know that many artists, but you're really good at what you do. So, Coach Dave, thank you for the time today. I thought that was great, just really clarifying. And at the end of the day, for the coaches out there, I think real actionable piece is just be very clear with your players when you talk about 1-motion and 2-motion shooting, exactly what you're talking about, because it means different things in different places. And that is 57 minutes to tell that story, or whatever we're at right now.
And knowing, like, and then, like, being really attuned to which of those two things does the player need? Do they need more power? Are they a 12-year-old player? Okay, good. Make them a little bit more 1-motion. If they're more mature and they're having trouble controlling the distance of their shot, maybe you shorten it up and allow a little bit more of a pause at that set point. I never really teach it, but I think of it as allowing that.
Coach Dave, as always, you are a delight. Where can the people find you online?
Go sign up for my shooting newsletter on CoachDaveLove.com. I'm going to be, over the next couple of months, I'm going to start to rework the emails that people get when they first sign up. Like, I've automated right now about 12 emails that go out to people to teach the important things I want to make sure they understand. So when they sign up, those go out over the next 3 weeks. I'm going to be reworking those to kind of reflect where I was 3 or 4 years ago. I want to try and reflect more of where I am now. That's not out yet, but sign up for the newsletter and check those out. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Dave Love. Where do people find you, Maddie?
At Coach Matty Rob on X/Twitter and on LinkedIn, of course, the old man social media website. Please rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend. It helps a ton, and we appreciate you hanging out with us till the end. Go Mavs, and see us next week.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Coach Dave Love Podcast. To stay up to date with our future episodes, please remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to sign up for Coach Love's free shooting newsletter on CoachDaveLove.com, and be sure to follow him on social media. You can find him at Coach Dave Love.